Christmas to all. This is my favorite time of year, a time for joy, a time for happiness, a time for Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. Now, there are probably a few of you out there watching this who have seen this film, and for those of you who have, I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell you anything about the behind-the-scenes aspects of this film yet. I'll save that for the end of the video. Let's just delve into this thing. Let's just sink our teeth into it. So basically, and very basically, I must add, the premise of this film is that Santa Claus has become stranded on a Florida beach. His reindeers have abandoned him, and he's stuck, and Christmas is in jeopardy. So what does he do? He sits there and he bitches and moans about how hot it is, how uncomfortable he is. This goes on for like 10 minutes, and then he breaks out into this weird song. It's just him like waving his arms up in the air.
It's usual cheer, because Christmas Day will soon be here.
It's weird. And then we enter like the next echelon of weird. You cut to a bunch of random kids playing, a couple of them like fighting to the death. And the footage is like that late 70s grainy kind of yellowish orange footage, and it's all slowed down just a little bit, and it feels like something, I'm not kidding, like right out of Sinister.
Predicament lacks its usual cheer, because Christmas Day will soon be here.
And then Santa calls for all the kids like they're all somehow brainwashed or hypnotized. He calls out to them, and so they all, like at the drop of a hat, stop what they're doing and run to help him in his sleigh. By running, I mean run in slow motion. Sinister. And then out of nowhere, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, that is Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, are in a boat on the lake. They rowed ashore and they're watching this whole thing unfold. I mean, I can't even begin to explain that. I mean, this is literally one of the biggest mysteries of this film. Why are Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer in this movie? What are they doing here? They contribute nothing to the story. They are simply onlookers for the story. So they all gather around Santa, and they're all trying to figure out how to get him unstuck, how to get him back up in the air to save Christmas again, while Tom and Huck are watching for some reason. And one by one, they each bring out a ridiculous animal. A gorilla, of course, a person in some shitty costume. A donkey, a very frightened pig. A sheep, a cow, and a horse. But none of them work out. None of them seem to do the job. So what does Santa decide to do? Well, to pass the time, he gathers the kids around and decides to tell them a little bedtime story. The story of Thumbelina. Yes, Santa literally sits down to tell the kids the story of Thumbelina. Because. So we get to footage of this young woman walking around some sort of theme park, and she comes upon this miniature Thumbelina exhibit that has an audio recording that's telling the story of Thumbelina. So at this point in the film, guys, we are literally seeing a movie within a movie. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. As the young woman watches this miniature production of Thumbelina, she starts to imagine herself within it, and she is in the role of Thumbelina, and the story of Thumbelina unfolds for the next 45 minutes. I am not joking. The majority of this film is the story of Thumbelina. My friends and I call it being Thumbelina. It's when you go into a movie expecting one thing entirely and you get something else entirely. Because while you thought you were watching a movie about Santa Claus and this ice cream bunny thing, what you were actually watching was a Thumbelina movie bookended by Santa Claus, complete with its own beginning and end credits and everything. It's like they filmed this Santa Claus thing and then they inserted a giant Thumbelina teleplay right into the middle of it. And it is boring. Oh my God, this movie is a challenge.
Have someone to love and to care for, so she finally decided to do something about it.
Standing on the Ice Cream Bunny is a true test of endurance for the lovers of So Bad They're Good movies. This will push you to your limits. I mean, the best thing I can say about the Thumbelina portion of the film, which is again really just the film itself, is that it is at least occasionally weird, if not like hilariously incompetent. Yeah, for example, she actually gets hit on in the film by a weird giant mole man. And you know, my Thumbelina knowledge is very dusty. I haven't seen anything Thumbelina related since like the 90s animated movie. But it's clear in this that this is aimed at kids, and yet she is basically being passed off to this man, this much older, non-human man, for marriage. Like, it just feels so out of place. This movie gets so dark sometimes, and so twisted, and so weird.
Or sometimes, when I get bored, I go, chugga run, chugga run. What I need is a little girl.
But it takes itself so seriously. It's also a musical, which just makes it that much more terrible. Nothing is worse than watching a terrible movie that is also a terrible musical.
Last year I turned an ugly toad into a prince real quick.
And we keep cutting back from the teleplay to the young woman who's also playing Thumbelina, watching the miniature unfold. I mean, what you're really watching, guys, is a movie about Santa Claus who gets stuck in the sand, and then he decides to tell the kids some story of a young woman who watches a theme park miniature of the story of Thumbelina come to life and sees herself in it. I'm pretty sure that's just schizophrenia. But hold on to your butts. There is an entirely different version of this film, but instead of inserting Thumbelina, they insert Jack and the Beanstalk. I cannot make this up. Now, the Beanstalk version is slightly more entertaining than the Thumbelina version, but not by much. Basically, the story is Jack climbs up the world's flimsiest beanstalk, and he finds himself in Giant Land, and he sneaks into the giant's castle, and he finds a giant and his wife, and he begins to steal things from the giant. But the incredible thing here, guys, is that they built the giant's castle upscaled. I mean, to shoot an actual giant, except they don't have a scaled down version of the set. So when the actor playing the giant comes on set, the set is still giant. So anyway, Jack continues to steal shit, and then he ends up getting caught, and then he steals the giant's precious magical harp, blah, 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 blah. I mean, what were the filmmakers thinking? What could they possibly have been thinking? I mean, we all know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. We all know the story of Thumbelina. What's new here? Why did it have to be bookended by Santa Claus? Why does this movie exist at all? I mean, the biggest laughs that come out of this movie is due to the fact that they look like they have a combined production budget of about $9. But fortunately or unfortunately, both versions end in the same way. Enter the Ice Cream Bunny. I mean, the whole movie you're thinking, okay, Santa Claus, fine, Thumbelina, Jack and the Beanstalk, but where's the Ice Cream Bunny? I mean, he's in the goddamn title. Well, he appears in the last like 10 minutes of the movie, and it is horrifying. He's revealed driving like this giant Model T with kids like spilling over the sides. He's swerving wildly all over the road. He almost hits a dog, because I'm sure the guy in the costume can see just fine. And just to add an extra layer of creepy to this, it looks like the kids are singing. I mean, their mouths are moving, but the lyrics to the song don't match whatever is coming out of their mouths. So it has this kind of weird dreamlike surrealism to it, all complemented by this blaring siren noise. It's like an emergency siren, like there's some horrible natural disaster about to come down upon them. It is one of the most bizarre things I have ever seen. I mean, it just feels like the audio or something was just like lost or destroyed for this film, and somebody had to dub in all the voices and sound effects at the very last minute with like nothing to work with. In fact, I'm almost willing to bet that's exactly what happened. So Santa Claus greets his old friend, the Ice Cream Bunny, who's clearly just a shitty amusement park mascot. I mean, every now and then his eyes get all fucked up. So where the hell did this monstrosity get dug up from? Well, it all goes back to the early 1970s. You had this theme park in Florida called Pirates World, which is no longer open, of course. In fact, it died off because of its direct competition, which happened to be Disney World. So they decided to create this movie centered around the theme park to reinvigorate interest in the theme park. Of course, it absolutely failed because look what they created. Look at it. I mean, but it's horrendous acting, it's cheap production value, it's mindfuck of a story. All of that ended up being just another nail in the coffin for Pirates World. So that is it, guys. If you've never seen Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, I have now officially introduced it to you. Go out there and check it out. And if you have seen Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, go and comment below and tell me what you think about it. I mean, really, what the fuck? And if you like this video, guys, and you want to see some more stuff, go and click like and subscribe below. And until next time, I'm Late Never Saw, keeping you movie healthy.